I have 9:15. We will convene this regular Board of County Commissioner meetings. Today is Thursday, August 8th. We're meeting in Cripple Creek in the Teller County Centennial Building for Board of County Commissioner meeting. Welcome all. Glad you all can make it here. We will lead with invocation by Commissioner Williams and the pledge of allegiance by Treasurer Brown.
Mr. Chair, everybody has. Heavenly Father, thank you for another opportunity to serve the citizens of this great county. We thank you for the rains that you sent our way to make it green and fire it away. We pray for the current leadership of our country and future leadership of our country and world peace that awaits us. In His name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, we'll do the minutes first of the notice resolution.
Yes.
Okay. We have a emergency board meeting that was held July 31st. We had a conference call to ratify, and that's the one where we put in place the stage 1 burning ban. We need to adopt the minutes, and then we have to approve the resolution that was held at that meeting. Ratify, I'm sorry.
And Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed, there is a typographical error in the spelling of my name on the minutes of the emergency meeting dated July 31st. It's ERIC, should be ERIK, but outside of that, I have no other corrections.
I don't have any additionals, Mr. Chair.
All right.
So since I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the minutes of the emergency meeting of the Teller County Board of County Commissioners dated July 31st, 2024, which was held via Zoom conference call. And additionally, there's one additional correction. There's a misspelling typo in where it says via Zoom conference call. Conference is missing a. So with those two amendments, I would move.
I'd like the approval with the other amendments.
All right, so we go to the discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Strong,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes. And we don't have it in front of us, but during that meeting, we had a resolution that was read that actually instituted the fire ban. And we need to ratify that decision since it was in an emergency meeting. So it's just a.
Yes, the motion would just be to ratify resolution number 0731 2024, number 25, a resolution to adopt stage 1 fire ban that restricts within burning in Teller County, Colorado.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion. You have that?
I went off on the minutes, just a second paragraph there.
And we go to the approved minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do some of this.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I was gonna do
Gonna do it
the
together.
motion first. Yeah. And then we'll do the second set of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt resolution number 0731 2024 25, and being a resolution to adopt stage 1 fire ban that restricts open burning in Teller County, Colorado.
Second?
All right, and just to clarify for the record, it's a ratification of the resolution that was passed during that meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Strong,
Yes.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Campbell.
Yes. And then next up, we will have the minutes from our regular Board of County Commissioner meetings on July 25th, 2024. Don't think I have any corrections on that set of minutes. Comments?
You have any corrections?
I have no corrections. Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the minutes of the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners, of Teller County, Colorado, dated July 25th, 2024, as presented.
Second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Assuming no other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Strong,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes. All right. Next up, we got a pretty good size set of accounts payable, I think we $1 million mark, if I'm not mistaken. I just had two notes of a couple big things. We had our local sales tax submission for $392,499.81. And then the other biggest one was fairground construction, two-page construction, for our first phase over there that thankfully he got done before the end of the county fair. And that was $117,805.16 for the only ones I'd like to highlight.
Nope, I have reviewed and have no questions.
Yeah, I would just say thanks on the fairgrounds as well. Very happy with page construction. That, Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve accounts payable dated 07/30/2024. It's dated August 6, 2024, the amount of $1,067,520.41.
Second?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Assuming no other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. All right, next up, we have the board reports. Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's start off with, something probably all want to talk about a little bit because it's been Fair Week. Commissioners spent quite a bit of time, involved with the fair. And this year we had a lot of capital improvements that took place at the fairgrounds, and so we've got some new grandstands. We've created the area, new crow's nest for the rodeo grounds, and a lot of very visible improvements, and of course the dedication of the new flagpole out there as well in celebration of 125th anniversary of Teller County. I could not be more proud of first off the Fair Board on what a tremendous event that they organized, staffed, and pulled off. It really was a tremendous week. From the very beginning of it was the dedication of the flagpole and the folks that came out, and fireworks after that. And then, of course, all the events of the week. It just really was tremendous. And for us, and I hope the commissioners are forgiving for using the us vernacular, I could not be more proud. We could not be more proud of the 4-H kids and the work that they put in to raise all of those animals through the spring and summer, come forward, show them, and then of course, a lot of them won tremendous awards, and commissioners participated in helping to serve at the auction dinner for bidders. And I don't know if I've had more fun all year. I gotta be on. I gotta be honest. Serving, being able to talk to everybody. It was just a tremendous evening. It really was a celebration of youth in Teller County. These are our future leaders, and there's something about having an 8-year-old kid walk up to you, big belt buckle and hat on, and stands up straight, looks you in the eye, puts her hand out, introduces himself, and asks you to buy their animal. It's multiple times, yeah, exactly. But also, now that, Bob, you've been doing this for many, many years, but, this has been about, 3.5 years for Dan and I. This is our third fair, but, there were some kids, who were, aging out, Brianna and Leanna Strait were a couple of kids that were seniors and are aging out of the 4-H program, but they're not going away from the 4-H program, because I think those are going to be some of the future leaders that will bring their own kids back into it. But it's great to see them from when they started out as freshmen in high school, and now, of course, graduating high school and moving on to the next stage of their lives. Really was just tremendous. Could not be more proud of the kids. Just want to thank everybody that came out. It was a really, really great night on Friday night, and one that certainly I'm going to remember for quite a while. And we have future plans for continued improvements of the fairgrounds, which we hope will benefit generations to come. And just also tickled to see the growth in the 4-H program. They had on Saturday, I believe it was, they had the young kids animal show. I think they had 42 kids that were out there showing animals in the next morning, and that's that next level of kids coming into 4-H. So they've got just a tremendous group coming forward. Can't wait to see where it goes. So that part was really tremendous. Also, commissioners attended a public leaders forum in regards to Newmont mining and the Cripple Creek and Victor mine. Got some insight into where they are on the sale of that, but also kind of where they are on future plans and what the potential of that mine is, whether they continue as the operator or a new operator is brought on. Want to thank Newmont for their transparency in that. There was a lot of good information that was given from that. And also, you know, we were joined by staff members from the governor's office, from CDPHE and from the Minelands, DMRS. We're all there as well. So in addition to the other local leaders. So really was a good meeting. Really appreciated again the transparency on that. Got, you know, a lot of things coming up in regards to transportation. On Monday, we'll have our quarterly Central Front Range transportation meeting down in Penrose. So I'll be down there for that and beginning updates on these summer construction projects that are going on through CDOT. And hopefully we'll be getting an update on the timeline of the rest of Highway 24 from roughly Divide, just east of Divide, all the way to the county line on that next project of resurfacing. And hopefully I'll get an update on the timeline for that. But I think I'll leave it at that. But again, what a fantastic week at the fair, highlight of the summer, and certainly highlighted my time as a commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Stone. Commissioner Williams.
Orders, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think Eric took everything that Bob and I were going to say. No, it can't be said enough. I'll just say two short things, but it was a highlight. And even though it's only been 3.5 years, we watched, 7-year-olds for 3.5 years and get their buckles. I'll tell you what really affected me, and I grew up here as a kid as well. They do everything right raising these animals. They get them to a point, they're going to show them, they get a ribbon, and then they realize they just sold their animal. And so we got to watch it, a young 10-year-old girl, well, I won't mention, who just suddenly realized that her animal was sold and was going to go to slaughter. And that's all part of understanding what Michigan agriculture is. And the maturity I saw, the poignant part of that, and I think Eric and Bob both saw that, the tears, the fact that the older kids came over and hugged and said, well, that's the way it works. We eat these animals. I saw that 2 or 3 times, and afterwards, Eric, Bob, and I walked through the stalls and just talked to people, and it was just really cool. And what you could see is empowered parents with their kids, whether they were single parents, whether they were grandparents, didn't matter. There was adults working with kids, and we're very serious in our commitment to the fair. Again, it was our 125th anniversary, so they got fireworks, they got some things they normally wouldn't do. We got the one grandstand covered this year before we go to phase 2, and they did cowboy church in there, for example. I mean, so if you build it, they really will come and they'll figure it out. The ideas are just churning. So we'll be meeting with the fair board, in the coming month or so, once Ross tells us it's ready to kind of see what the next steps are. Because the other thing I saw that, and Eric noticed as well as all of Bob, is that we finally this year were able to get people from the northern half of the county down to the southern half. There's quite a few people that called me and said, that was my first time at the fair. I watched the demolition derby, or I watched something. So again, for me, it was about the kids. So I shared everything Eric said. Busy time for us right now. We're not in legislative season, but there's legislation that we've been talking about. Again, I was thankful to Pat last time with 108 and 50. Those 2 initiatives, I won't take Bob's thunder. He can let you know what we've been doing with that, but we still we oppose those if they come on the ballot. But there's some movement that Bob will tell you about. Unfortunately, Initiative 91 is on the ballot now. That's the mountain lion, lynx, and bobcat prohibition. Again, I'll just tell you, the transparency, I'm a hunter. I don't hunt bobcats, so I don't hunt mountain lions, but the issue that most of us have with it is we have DNR and we have CPW, and that's what they're tasked with, science-based management of wildlife. So tomorrow could be elk, it could be something else. And so you'll see initiatives starting through the parties here, not officially through the county, but through our parties to put some signs up. 30,000 people go through 24 every day. So you see a big sign with a mountain lion on it that says vote no on 91. I'll be at the CPW council next week. And again, that's an arm of the state that I sit on. It's an arm of CPW, so it's awkward. I can't say certain things when I'm on that board, but I can tell you people are really upset about it. I was to remind you, 60% of our population lives in the Denver metro area, so that's where this will be fought or won or lost. So that's where our focus is. I think we've got $3 million right now focused on advertising for that. So again, if you please vote no on Initiative 91 when you see it. In terms of community events, all 3 commissioners have been very involved with what I call sort of community activation. It's that time of the year, right? Summertime is fleeting quickly. We're in the middle of monsoon. So we've had multiple HOA meetings, either individually or under the sheriff's guise with our commissioners. We've had our wildfire councils. We have a fire ban in place. We still have people that think that's not serious. And so the sheriff is out there ticketing that. We had a fire in Colorado, or close to where I live, about 2 miles away over in Dome Rock. It's a state fire. And so they were able to send a helicopter and put it out. About a day later, we had a fire down our street. And so when we called 911, we had the feds show up, we had the police show up. And then unfortunately, it was a person that didn't think the fire ban applied to them. So I just ask, please continue to keep the fire ban. As we talked about this morning, and I was talking to Pat a little while ago, we did just come from a meeting with city managers and mayors. Even though we're in the middle of monsoon season, Colorado still is critically short on wildfire fighters because they're out west. It's critically short on aviation assets because they're out west or adjacent. People are borrowing aircraft from Wyoming right now. So we're still in a period of carefulness. So I ask you to continue to be focused on that. Code enforcement, a little bit about code enforcement. I think we were briefed a few days ago. We have 180 active cases right now. That's not a bad thing or a good thing. That is what it is. And a lot of it is just to try to get people into compliance and to ask people to look at the regulations if they may not be aware. We actually have a full-time code enforcement officer now that's driving around, and he's trying to work with people. He's doing a pretty good job. I was happy to see sort of before and after pictures. I'll also tell you a lot of what we're finding is cover for nefarious activities. So sometimes when you go out someplace, you find out that we have abuse of children going on, even though it looks like something else, or you might have that drug issue going on. So we're working closely with law enforcement on that. But I think that program's on track. As far as public comment period, I think Pat and Rick both got this. So on the 13th of August, 6 to 8:30 in the sheriff's office. I've been associated with this now for 10 years. This is the Pike National Forest shooting opportunities. So just as a reminder to the press and anybody in this room, there's 7 ranges under consideration in 1 million acres called Pike National Forest between several counties. Our closest one will be Turkey Rocks or Turkey Tracks, the Douglas Teller line. Right now it's being used, but it's the illegal range. And the idea on this last listening session they've done, I've lost track how many in 10 years. This is the last one before the decision's made. There was some urgency to make the decision for the administration changes. We'll see if that's still there. I personally feel very positive they'll do the right thing. The real question is, will they close all or part of Pike National Forest to disperse shooting afterwards? And that's an emotional issue for a lot of people. I think if you're able to come to that meeting, you ought to come, particularly the press, because you're going to hear both sides of the argument. You know, hey, I almost got shot, or don't tell me what to do. It's a Second Amendment thing. It's very interesting. But again, that will be the 13th, which is a Tuesday, 6 to 8:30 in the sheriff's office. And then the final point, I just want to let everybody realize and support, if we could, the Veterans Rally that's coming up. So the 17th and 18th of this month, just a short time away, is emotional for a lot of veterans. We have 6,000 veterans in Teller County. It's the one event that I go to, like Eric said very eloquently, you know, that I look forward to every year. It has nothing to do with the rally. It has nothing to do with the t-shirt or leather goods or even motorcycles. Just need to see other veterans. It's okay to give them a hug. It's okay to shed a tear. It's usually something that you see there or hear there is going to bring back a memory that we need to get out of our systems. On that Sunday in Cripple Creek, we always have the memorial wall ceremony at Mount Pisgah, and that's going to happen again this year, midday, where we put names on the wall for folks that died. From Colorado. So I'd encourage you, everybody feels pretty strongly about veterans here, but come out and support them if you can. With that, Mr. Chair, to
All right, thank you, Commissioner Williams. As you both mentioned, great time at the fair. I just don't want to go without comment. I agree with all your assessments and everything. It was a great process. And in my world, obviously, my kids have gone through that 25, 28 years ago or whatever. It's just great to see kids get some leadership opportunities, some learning processes, some education, and some of those kids are just going to be fabulous adults. I know some of them are only 8, 10 years old, but you can see that process starting. And some of that 4-H process is about building that leadership, building that public presence, building that discussions with adults that they don't really even know. And there's just great events. I went to several of them last week, including the items you had mentioned. Thank you so much for everybody that volunteers for the fair, because I know beyond just the Fairs and Association Board and snares, there are a lot of people that help put that process together, a lot of people that volunteer their time, including Darian Pounds, our new CSU Extension Director. He's been his whole week out there, and it's like second or third week he's even been employed, so he got baptism by fire, drinking from a fire hose on how all that fire stuff works. And I'd just like to say, thanks for Public Works and letting contracts, thanks for Ross Herzog for helping administrating, and Fred Clifford and Page Construction for doing some amazing work out there. And obviously we pay Page Construction under contract. He did quite a few things out there that weren't necessarily required for him. And he just did a great job doing things above and beyond what he was contracted to do. So I just want to say thank you so much for everybody involved. As you mentioned, we have that CCMB Cripple Creek Newmont mine meeting. It was great to attend and hear from them about their plans and their leadership and how it's going on. We also attended Forest Fire District's pancake breakfast Saturday or two ago, and they had like 800 people, well beyond what they expected and the money that they were going to raise. So it was great to see the community come out, support that fire district. And right after that event, we all went over to the Heritage Days across the street over at the Grange for the Florissant Heritage Days. That was a great event, and I know they feel like sometimes there's some competition for events across the street, but it also gives them a chance to bleed off some of those people and get them to see the events that's what's going on in the Heritage Days. And the other subject, excuse me, that you brought up is CCI has been working with a couple folks on the leadership of the legislature and Michael Fields, who are bringing the two tax issues that are both related to property tax to the ballot, issue 50 and issue 108. And they're trying to make a deal with the state legislature. And Mr. Fields joined our conversations on it more than one occasion, and Kirk Meyer was leading it from the Republican side. But they're talking about the possibility of a special session. And it came down to some agreements with Michael Fields that if they happen to call a special session, that he had some criteria sort of laid out that if they pass a single bill that relates to some of the property tax issues, he would agree to take Initiative 50 and 108 off the ballot. It involves lots of negotiations. I was thankfully involved. I didn't expect it, but I spent several days on phone calls and making arrangements and cooperating with people and getting some good discussion that goes. But CCI ended up taking a position that we would write a letter in support of that, or cover Commissioner Association, that we would support that effort because the legislation that was thrown out there as a possible proposal would be way better than the effects of 50 or 108, let alone with both of them passed, because they're pretty draconian measures dealing with property taxes. And the whole dynamic is set up pretty uniquely that the state is involved with this, the initiatives are involved with it, and all the people that are involved are essentially statewide policy and leadership folks. But none of that property tax money goes to them. It's all about local monies and local taxes, our fire districts, our library districts, our ambulance districts, cities, counties, every special district that's out there, including water districts, et cetera. The goal is obviously is to see if we can convince people to do that. When you get to that level, obviously there's politics involved and there's personalities involved. A couple of days I was on the bank of, this is 90%, 95%, it's going to happen. And then the following day, we get people talking and politics are involved, and maybe it's not going to happen. In the last day or so, I haven't heard much as far as if it's going to happen, but it's going to happen quick by the end of August, because September 6th is the last day that Michael Fields has the opportunity to withdraw those proposals for the ballot. So if a special session is going to be called by the governor or not, I don't know where that's going to go. I've been interviewed a bunch of different times, and it's in Colorado Politics and Gazette and other papers talking about the position from CCI, but at this point, Colorado commissioners voted to support it. We only had a couple of detractors out of I think we had 66 people on the call from commissioners from around the state. So we'll see where that goes, but I think the initiatives that were thrown out there and that were agreed to is at least a footprint for where this bill would go. Were much more palatable than the effects of 50 or 108 that kind of affect on local property tax districts. So I'll leave it at that. Everybody's out there willing to support some of that stuff, but we'll see how that goes because it does become a political decision if they want to do a special session. And if that special session would be extremely limited to one bill or threat of a veto, if any other bills pop up, just deal with this one issue. We'll see where that goes, but I can talk on that a lot because obviously it's dear to my heart as the tax and financial guy, but I think I'll leave it at that. Next up, we have elected officials report. Erica's the assessor.
Nothing today, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Treasurer Brown, anything?
Thank you.
See anybody else in as far as elected officials unless, did you have anything to brought forward from the clerk's office?
No, we don't.
Okay. Then we have county administrator's report, Mr. Herzog.
What's left on that?
Yes.
Just super proud of the community, just seeing the county fair and how much work gets put into that. And watching families get to be with their children for that week is fantastic. So I'll leave it at that, sir.
I just echo what Bob said. Bob said, you know, not only did you take leadership with Fred and helping them build it for the community, but you got us involved at the key times. Hey, is this what you guys want? Is this kind of where your intent is? And so really comfortable and I think really enjoyed it. And you were there when the flag was raised and Mr. Stone was singing the national anthem and was out there. So including the kids. And so that's all part of raising the thinking of this county. So I really appreciate your personal sacrifice.
All right, our next agenda item is time reserved for department heads. Ivy, anything?
Nothing today.
Don't see any other department heads. Okay, next up, we have time reserved for public appointment. People that have items they'd like to discuss with us that don't have an agenda. Yes, sir. If you could come up to the microphone. Introduce yourself.
Greg Jenkins. I just wanted to address the county's, as Bob mentioned, the code enforcement campaign going on. Part of my concern with that is a lot of people, some that I know are going to be affected by this, aren't going to have the means to do what you want. Is the county going to have a plan to assist them? With an example being when we had the 3-foot snow and we were out digging people out all over the place? Or is it the county's agenda to just basically harass them and find them until they can run them out to support counties and the planning board's vision of utopia? Because not everybody's going to be able to meet that no matter what you do.
Yeah, Jerry, thanks for being here. We know each other. Jerry's a longtime resident here, very respected in the community. Yeah, and I think you're one of the cases respectful.
And I am. I'm not bringing up my case. My case isn't the issue.
It's, and you know, Jerry, we can't talk about that one, but in general.
But part of my concern is I know a lot of people don't know they come here and speak, and honestly just will ignore you until they're in so deep. A good example of ignoring you would be Rick Batista, who was a friend of mine, unfortunately passed away. And I told him the whole time that was going on, you know, how it, you know, and it cost him a lot, it cost his wife a lot. And I just hate to see that to people who just don't know better.
Yeah, no, I would, and I'll speak in general terms, Jerry. I think at the end of the day, what we want is compliance, right? I mean, they're not trying to pick anybody. So as you know, you've been a long time resident here. I grew up here as a kid. We have minimum standards, right? A 50-foot setback on anyone, water quality standards, so minimum standards. And again, this isn't directed at you necessarily, but we have a lot of people that aren't from here. We have people that are coming up every day from the Springs, from Denver, saying I can do whatever the hell I want.
Oh, and I understand that. I see that too. I'm not arguing what you're doing. My concern, like I said, is for some people who just don't know how to handle it, don't have the means to even do anything about it.
So to your specific question, in some cases, compliance it's a simple permit, right? Something that says, hey, look, if you were to pass tomorrow and I were to buy your property, again, we're not talking about your specific case, but let's use a generic case. what is it that I'm buying? Am I buying vacant land? Am I buying a home? Am I buying a business? And so we see that throughout the county. The other more nefarious thing, and again, not directed at you, Jerry, is we're seeing abuse of elders. We had a horrific crime yesterday. I'm sure you heard about it.
About that.
A lot of things that we see that come up with a visit by the code enforcement officer, or the cops say, hey, we've got some kids that ought to be in school. And so all we're doing is not necessarily a campaign, it's getting back to what we all moved here for when there's only 7,000 people there, trying to send the message that there are some basic standards so that your water is good, our water is good. So as far as mitigation, again, what the code enforcement officer is trying to do through the direction of our county administrator is get folks in compliance. In some cases, it takes weeks, months. Some cases, it's an administrative decision. That's all they're trying to do. And every case is unique. Every case is different.
And to address that, I'm very pleased you code enforcement officer. He's not a cartman, I guess is the best way.
So he's a good guy. He really
Yeah.
is. He's
As far as they go, but like I said, part of this, when I heard what was going on, and, example I can give, there was somebody in Florissant, his parents had died, and they had an old bus and an old truck. And as it turned out, my son bought the truck, took it out of the county, immediately happy to know. And the first thing he said to him, I'm glad to get this out of here, the county's just been harassing me. And you and I had a discussion once that it was not the board of commissioners' intent to harass
There's
citizens.
no harassment, it's compliance.
Okay,
So I'll
but
give
it
I'll give you an
across that
example.
way.
A similar example, Jerry,
Okay.
is not that same case, but another case where, neighbors, complaint driven neighbors came in and said, hey, we got a real issue. Code enforcement guy goes out there, it's a veteran, he's 93 years old, he can barely stand.
Yeah.
And he realizes this place is a mess, he's not proud of it, he has no, and so with the code enforcement officer, he worked when they got his grandson out there and they cleaned it up. And, so that's the kind of thing that, we're just trying to be a
But
community.
he had a way to do it. There's still gonna be some that just, and that was my question. Do you have a plan for the ones who just can't do it for whatever the reasons to assist them with it? Because I know several people in that category love to do it, but work in minimum wage jobs and, they accumulate crap over time.
Yeah, we had a briefing this week, for example, from the code enforcement officer and his boss, when they came in and said before and after pictures. And I know through Ross, we made an exception not too long ago on something. He'll bring us each case uniquely, and again, compliance is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get people in front of the judge, but I gotta tell you, there are some people that are so obstinate, they don't care about.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. There's gonna be some others just gonna drown themselves. Rick was a good example, so.
That was, yeah.
But those aren't my concern. If they're not willing to put an effort in, it's just the ones who can't.
We'll definitely look at it, no bother.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, Mr. Jenkins, thank you for coming. One of the things that I'm very confident about, because we've been very careful and met with our code enforcement officer, met with CDD, as well as with actually all the people at this table about how we wanted to address this in a way that was respectful. And I don't have any evidence of, I guess, what I would term, or I think what anybody up here would term as quote harassment. For some people, harassment is that, I've got a bus and an old truck on this property that I inherited, and the county keeps telling me I gotta get it cleaned up, and they view that as harassment. Well, code enforcement officer
That
has
also sort
has
of
to do
depends
his job.
on the side that you're on.
Yeah, well, exactly. It depends on which side you're on, exactly. But, one of the things I'm happy about and to see is that our, the code enforcement officer, first off, the guy does have a heart. He shows it a lot.
He's a very good guy.
Very professional. So he looks to help people find solutions. One of the things also that the county is doing is, and it hasn't been approved yet because it's part of our next budget, is to begin to build a fund specifically around this code enforcement area. So that if we do run into a thing where either somebody refuses to, or somebody absolutely can't, for whatever reasons, the county will be able to go in, get the property cleaned up. We'll have a fund for that. And then there's some other, legal mechanisms that kick in that do not involve taking anybody's property. But they do involve, for example, if, somebody has a hazardous waste issue on their property, which frankly that exists right now. If the county has to expend money to go in and remove that, which might be considered to be assistance or whatever, is that county also has the ability to basically put a marker or a lien on that property to say, you know what, we spent $50,000 cleaning this up. We're not foreclosing on you. We're not putting it up for sale or any option like that. But then when that, they do sell that property, that there is a lien that gets paid back, there's no interest on it. But it at least gives us a way to, be able to, whether you want to call it assistance or just, taking action. And as you're probably aware, we're dealing with everything from, what's already been spoken about here today, but also recently there's two things that I saw and we're briefed on where we have, somebody up, above Cripple Creek Mountain Estates, right in, the floodplain of a creek that feeds down, that is, has some obvious, sources of contamination. Huge numbers of vehicles, there's obviously commercial stuff happening there. There's, they're also doing some illegal mining on Federal, which we referred that over as well. And, for that, there's a public health and safety concern there. Then also over in the Florissant area, got somebody actually in the floodplain on some property, set up an RV and run black and gray lines into the creek.
Yeah.
But that's the range of.
And like I said, I'm not here to say, oh, you're all wrong. Just my concern is like, once again, for the people who just.
I think my desire, and I think for all the commissioners, our desire is to be respectful about it, and I hope, that's what people experience is respectful, but at the same time, it's, being respectful is that we are, we're trying to be, firm as well on that, hey, we're looking for compliance.
Right.
And would like to see ways to figure out for you to be able to get into compliance, and we're not coming in, just right out of the gate, heavy hammered or any of that, it's that you need to be notified and then you begin a process.
You might relate to a few people in your planning department that respect is earned, not demanded.
Right.
And we will, Jerry.
We will.
And the other thing, Jerry, I would tell you is you brought up a great point. I'll speak in generic terms. So when the code enforcement officer knocks on a neighbor's door and says, it's come to my attention that you may be in violation of whatever. A lot of people don't know what the land use looks like. They don't know what the environmental. That's that communication piece. So he briefs us, a month later, or briefs Ross, I think weekly now. He could say, hey, I'm talking to Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones is working with me. He's got a problem. He can't pay for it. There's that dialogue. I think what doesn't work well if you're talking to neighbors, or we're all neighbors, so we talk to them as well. Just in general terms, it's when they say, I can't afford to do anything, I'm not gonna do anything. Because then it forces the county's hand, gotta go to court.
Those are ones that want to address if there was some kind of resistance.
But also people are working with us and trying to get into compliance. That's why we hired that guy. That we used to do it part-time, we do with the sheriff, we still have a piece of it. But he's not the bad guy, he's the guy that people want to stop and say, hey, can you go look at, and seriously, we've had an uptick in adult abuse of older folks, isolated widows. We're finding a lot of stuff out there, and so he also does a community service just in driving around.
I watch out for a good chunk of my neighbors. All my neighbors are very old, so I know what you're talking.
Bob, anything you'd like to answer?
No, I tend to agree with this. It's about being a people person and getting where we need to go. And I think there's discussions that we've had just explaining our philosophy, and to have some tolerance with some of these folks, as long as they're willing to work with us, we're willing to work with them. It's only when it becomes, hell no, I can do anything I want, it's my property. But you also have to be respectful of your neighbor's
I
property.
understand that when you ban the torpedoes, you get some torpedoes.
So I think it's a work in progress, but we're getting our philosophy out there, and some of this is gonna take some long time. Some of these projects aren't gonna be helped or fixed immediately, but tolerance is involved, and I think we've given our direction to make sure that we can work with people the best way we can to get where we want to go.
Okay, well, that's what I came here. That's what I wanted to hear because that wasn't what I was hearing.
We reiterate that. We'll go back to them, Jerry, make sure we get the right attitude. Again, we had a meeting this week, so we're not far back here going, but it was Tuesday. It's just Tuesday, we got a briefing.
Well, I've been in business here for 40 years. I used to own Telecounty Ways, so I've dealt with code enforcement on and off 40 years. It's just part of the nature of my business and what I do. And as you know, I have a car hobby, and I spend in excess of 30,000 in registration every year. As far as that goes, and I explained to him, if you show up and I got 200 cars and 42 on blocks, there's a problem. But it's just like I said, my biggest concern, my issue I can deal with. I was working on that before you guys started this anyway. But I just know some people that just aren't going to be able to do it and don't know how to respond to it. So
I appreciate you coming today.
Appreciate it, Jerry.
okay.
Thank you so much.
That's what I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not seeing, but I'll open up one more time for public that don't have an agenda item. All right, close that public comment. I think we're on time for our next agenda item, administration, consider a resolution approving the grant agreement with State Board of Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for a community impact grant for the completion of the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project. Mr. Herzog.
Thank you, sir. Before you is resolution number 08-08-2024-26. And this is a resolution approving the grant agreement with the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for a community impact grant for the completion of the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project. So the park is going away. This was the park that originally was helped by the Girl Scouts and
Florida.
Yes. And they raised a terrific amount of money, and we were able to put a significant amount in addition to that. And this grant helps complete a bigger phase of that park, which was vision, part of the public process, and brought before the commissioners. So this is awarding $371,818.49 from the State Board of Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund, GOCO. And has been reviewed. The agreement was reviewed from our attorney as well. No concerns. I'm happy to accept money to make improvements to the park. With that, I can read the resolution if there's any
Any
questions.
questions, gentlemen?
No,
sir.
just one correction, Bob Campbell's name is missing
Oh,
an
well.
L. Yeah, that's the only missing. We got no further questions, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
Whereas on March 7th, 2024, the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County approved resolution number 03-07-2024-10 to support the grant application for a community impact grant in the amount of $371,818.49 from the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund, GOCO, for the completion of the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project. And whereas GOCO approved the grant application and has awarded the county a grant in the amount not to exceed $371,818.49, subject to the terms and conditions of the grant agreement between GOCO and the county, contract number 24016, the grant agreement. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado as follows. 1, the board approves the grant agreement with GOCO and authorizes Robert W. Campbell, Chair of the Board, to sign the grant agreement. And 2, the board authorizes the expenditure of funds necessary to meet the terms and obligations of the grant agreement adopted at a regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado on August 8th, 2024.
Thank you, sir. This is a resolution and an item for public discussion, so I'll open it up for any public that might have comments. Hearing none, seeing none. Gentlemen, if you got any other questions?
No questions, sure. Just glad that we're taking advantage of these funds. I know it's been a long time since we've had significant grant like this from GOCO. So congratulations to all the staff and the UROS, and also to Divide Mountain Explorers for bringing the project to us and get some additional funding.
No, I agree with Eric. Our motivation was always there. Our appetite, the education we got there. Jerry was a kid, we were kids. Teeter totters are gone, slides are gone. We find out that the commitment to redo a park is very expensive, $500,000, for example. So yeah, the state stepped in like this. It helps us do it. We're going to do it anyway, but this frees up some money for other things. So thank you for all your efforts, and John Evans in the background. Thanks, sir.
All right, what would be your choice on this resolution?
And Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve resolution number 0808-2024, number 26, a resolution approving the grant agreement with the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for a community impact grant for the completion of the Florissant Community Park Improvements Project as presented.
Second motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. Assuming we're the discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes. Thank you, sir. Next up, we have two resolutions basically dealing with the same subject. Consider a resolution calling for an election. Voters in Teller County to eliminate term limits. Teller County coroner.
I mean, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
and both of these resolutions, this one and the next item, were ones that we worked on, and want to make clear on a couple of things here. First off, is neither the coroner nor the surveyor came to commissioners requesting this. This is an issue across the state of Colorado, and the issue that we're dealing with is in small counties, the number of people that are qualified legally to be a surveyor and that are legally qualified. I'll talk about both of them in one swoop. And to be a coroner, that level of training that is needed in order to perform both of those jobs are becoming more and more rare in our society. There are fewer and fewer surveyors out there. And frankly, there are fewer and fewer people out there that have either the desire, the ability, the training to become a coroner. And the issue that we may see ourselves in is, and again, want to point out, neither our surveyor nor our coroner are up for re-election. But when those term limits kick in, we'll be sitting in a county where I'm pretty confident that outside of the two people that currently hold those offices, there probably aren't any other people out there. Now, if there are, if people move in and they have those skills, they can always run. But this doesn't put us in a situation where we don't have anybody running for coroner because our current coroner is term limited and there's nobody running. Now, there are mechanisms to be able to appoint in that, but ultimately, I believe that should be chosen by voters rather than by a board of three as to who that next coroner, that next surveyor might be. And it could result in just simply appointing the last person, but again, I'd rather have that go to the voters. And I want to be real clear about both of these, is this is not first step towards anything in regards to term limits in any other office in the county as far as I'm concerned. That I have no desire to remove term limits for commissioners or sheriff or anybody else. I think those are in place for a very good reason. But I think there's a very good reason also for eliminating term limits for these two specific professional offices. So that's the foundation behind them, Mr. Chair. I don't know who we want to have read these, but I just wanted to kind of set groundwork on both of them on why this is coming forward and why it's coming forward now. It doesn't impact any future elections or any current office holders, other than if it does go to the voters and they do pass it, as it would allow people to continue to run for re-election should they, because those term limits would have been revoked.
thank you, Commissioner. I think your comments are spot on. I happen to be experienced previously where we didn't have any running for surveyor. And a few months after the election, we had to appoint somebody from the general public to be a surveyor. Term limits obviously does affect those qualified candidates in being able to make that appointment. So sometimes it's a challenge, and some people ask us, well, why do we even have a couple of those jobs? Because sometimes either one of these jobs can be limited or it can be a very busy job. And it's because statutes and the state constitution require it. And I know, at least in the surveyor's world, there has been attempts over the years to do a constitutional amendment. That process is pretty demanding, takes signatures across the state. It takes essentially a campaign to get it across to the public of why the issue is important. So it really does come down to a supply of people, as you had mentioned, especially in small counties across the state, and demand. And demand is nobody wants some of these jobs. And they are paid, and they are essentially both employees of the county as an elected official. But sometimes there aren't people that are willing to step up to do those jobs, but it's not always an attractive position or it's a talent. I know in previous conversation with our current surveyor, he's talking about doing internships within his business that he runs outside of being the county surveyor, because there's nobody coming up through the ranks in college world or even high school or trades for how to be a surveyor. And in the coroner's world, obviously, that's dealing with a subject that's not always pleasant for people to deal with. It takes the right type of personality, if somebody want to be a coroner. And, just further explanation, our coroner is not a medical examiner or a qualified professional forensic expert, but they determine manner and cause of death. But when some of these cases are a little more complexes, or that manner of death is not immediately available, we hire other counties to be our medical examiner to do the forensics and do the autopsies. But that's not the position we're looking at. We're looking at it from the state coroner's role. So.
Yeah, I could just add that the coroner has some unique responsibilities under Colorado statute for emergencies as well, and special, as Bob said, unique licensing. And so to be clear for the press, they'll still come up for re-election every 4 years. And so the voting population gets a chance. So if, like Eric said very well, there's nobody else, and the guy says, yeah, I'll stay an extra time. We all know commissioners that have been commissioners for 38 years, for example. I don't think that's what the state constitution or the people want to be fresh blood, but these are unique, very unique and very specific. So I applaud Eric for bringing it up. And that's our full support. So.
Yeah, and one last comment, if I may, Mr. Chair, is the other thing that is happening is the state legislature continues to, especially in the coroner's position, to add additional certifications, additional training that coroners must have to serve. And so to achieve that higher level of training that the legislature is frankly demanding, once somebody gets there, but then they're term limited, you have, in all likelihood, anybody coming in, be unlikely that they would have those higher levels of certification in a county where there frankly are, as far as I know, only one person in this business dealing with with the deceased as dealing with manner of death. So anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Gentlemen, do you need to read the resolution?
Sure, I can read those, Mr. Chair, and then just a reminder that this is just to put the language on the ballot. And so attached to the resolution, the clerk and recorder has a certification that she will sign. She's at the clerk and recorder conference, returns later today, so she can handle that tomorrow. And the exhibit to the certification for the clerk and recorder is going to be the form of a notice that I'll work with the clerk and recorder to get that complete so that the resolution and the certification go together. And then there are, I'll read them separately because there are different references to the statutes regarding the qualifications for each of these offices. So I'll start with resolution number 0808-2024, number 27. A resolution calling an election for the voters in Teller County to eliminate the term limits for the Teller County coroner. Whereas term limits for all elected officials, including the Teller County coroner, are set out in the Colorado Constitution, Article 18, Section 11, and limit the terms to 2 consecutive 4-year terms in office. Whereas Article 18, Section 11, Paragraph 2 provides that the voters of Teller County, a political subdivision of the state of Colorado, quote, may lengthen, shorten, or eliminate the limitations on terms of office implied in Section 11, end quote. And whereas Sections 30-10-601 through 30-10-624 of the Colorado Revised Statutes as amended detail the qualifications and duties for the county coroner. Whereas the services performed by the publicly elected county coroner benefit from special qualifications. And whereas once such an individual has obtained the desired qualifications, it might be beneficial to the citizens of Teller County to have that individual be able to serve more than 2 consecutive 4-year terms of office. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Teller, State of Colorado. 1. Election call. Pursuant to the applicable laws of the State of Colorado, the Teller County Board of County Commissioners, hereafter the Board, hereby determines that an election shall be held on November 5, 2024, at which there shall be submitted to the eligible electors of Teller County the question set forth in Section 2 hereof. The chair for the board is authorized to enter into an intergovernmental, I'm going to change that to an intra-governmental agreement because it's between board and clerk and recorder. Is authorized to enter into an intra-governmental agreement with the county clerk pursuant to section 1-7-116 CRS, and any such intragovernmental agreements heretofore entered into in connection with the election are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed. 2, ballot question. The ballot question in substantially the following form shall be submitted to the eligible electors of Teller County at the election. Ballot question. Shall limitations on the terms of office of 2 consecutive 4-year terms be eliminated for the Teller County coroner as authorized by Article 18, Section 11 of the Colorado Constitution? 3, election official. The Teller County clerk is hereby appointed as the designated election official of the board for purposes of performing acts required or permitted by law in connection with the election. 4, certification. The board hereby authorizes and directs this language to be certified to the county clerk on or before September 6, 2024. 5, authority of the chair. The chair of the board is hereby authorized and directed to take all action necessary or appropriate to effectuate the provisions of this resolution. 6, severability. If any section, paragraph, clause, or provision of this resolution shall for any reason be held to be invalid or unenforceable, the invalidity or unenforceability of such section, paragraph, clause, or provision shall not affect any of the remaining provisions of this resolution. Adopted and approved the 8th day of August, 2024, a regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County.
We're going to take a vote and read the next one.
Yes.
All right. Since this is a public resolution, any discussion from the public on this agenda item? All right, hearing and seeing none. Questions or for the county attorney? All right, what would be your choice on this motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve resolution number 0808-2024, parent 27, that being a resolution calling an election for the voters in Teller County to eliminate the term limits for the Teller County coroner.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Assuming no other discussion, roll call please.
Mr. Strauss,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes. And next up, to officially open this as an agenda item, consider a resolution calling for an election for the voters in Teller County to eliminate term limits for the Teller County survey.
Resolution number 0808-2024, number 28. A resolution calling an election for the voters in Teller County to eliminate the term limits for the Teller County surveyor. Whereas term limits for all elected officials, including the Teller County surveyor, are set out in the Colorado Constitution, Article 18, Section 11, and limit the terms to 2 consecutive 4-year terms in office. Whereas Article 18, Section 11, Paragraph 2 provides that the voters of Teller County, a political subdivision of the state of Colorado, quote, may lengthen, shorten, or eliminate the limitations on terms of office imposed by this Section 11, end quote. And whereas sections 30-10-901 through 30-10-907 of the Colorado Revised Statutes as amended detail the qualifications and duties for the county surveyor. And whereas the services performed by the publicly elected county surveyor benefit from special qualifications. And whereas once such an individual has obtained the desired qualifications, it might be beneficial to the citizens of Teller County to have that individual be able to serve more than 2 consecutive 4-year terms of office. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners, County of Teller, State of Colorado. Number 1, election called. Pursuant to the applicable laws of the state of Colorado, the Teller County Board, County Commissioners, hereinafter Board, hereby determines that an election shall be held on November 5, 2024, at which there shall be submitted to the eligible electors of Teller County the questions set forth in Section 2 hereof. The chair for the board is authorized to enter into an intragovernmental agreement with the county clerk pursuant to Section 1-7-116 CRS, and any such intragovernmental agreements heretofore entered into in connection with the election are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed. Number 2, ballot question. The ballot question in substantially the following form shall be submitted to the eligible electors of Teller County at the election. Ballot question, and here we will capitalize Teller County surveyor. Make that change. Ballot question, shall limitations on the terms of office of 2 consecutive 4-year terms be eliminated for the Teller County surveyor as authorized by Article 18, Section 11 of the Colorado Constitution. 3, election official. Teller County Clerk is hereby appointed as the designated election official of the board for purposes of performing acts required or permitted by law in connection with the election. 4, certification. The board hereby authorizes and directs its language to be certified to the county clerk on or before September 6, 2024. 5, authority of the chair. The chair of the board is hereby authorized and directed to take all action necessary or appropriate to effectuate the provisions of this resolution. 6, severability. If any section, paragraph, clause, or provision, this resolution shall for any reason be held to be invalid or unenforceable, the invalidity or unenforceability of such section, paragraph, clause, or provision shall not affect any of the remaining provisions of this resolution. Adopted and approved this 8th day of August, 2024, at a regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Teller County, Colorado.
Thank you for reading your resolution, Mr. Herman. I'll open this for public comment. Any public comment on this item to be considered? All right, hearing and seeing none. Gentlemen, questions or concerns or also motion on this resolution?
Just one last comment, Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, but just quickly looking at it right now on the state of Colorado's website, the minimum qualifications to be eligible to serve in this office requires a total of about 6 years of education and experience just to get there. So even if somebody wanted to think, well, I might like to be a surveyor next time this comes around, and if they are not in that industry, which currently I'm not aware of anybody who lives in the county outside of our current surveyor who has that level of training and experience. So it takes 6 years just to get there for training to be eligible. So that's kind of the big part of the reason for this. And with that, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve resolution number 080824, number 28, a resolution calling an election for the voters in Teller County to eliminate the term limits for the Teller County surveyor.
Second motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. Assuming no other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Stout,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes. Thank you for your efforts in getting these constructed and brought forward. You know, we're under some time limits, just like the resolutions I was talking about in the past. All needs to be decided by September 6th, so time was of the essence to get this completed. I don't have anything else on the regular agenda items, so next up we have 4 commissioner business items. Mr. Herzog.
Thank you, sir. Before you is a few business items. Number 1 is consider acceptance of the core services plan with the Colorado Office of Children, Youth, and Families. This program does have program goals that focus on the family strengths by directing intensive services that support and strengthen the family and protect the child, prevent out-of-home placement of the child, return children in placement to their own home, unite children with their permanent families, provide services that protect the child, and the return of children in placement to their own home or unite children with their permanent families is defined as return to home, guardianship, adoptive placements, provides independent living placement, foster adoption placement. So essentially, this program, this is a 3-year, so it'd be 24-25 would be the first of this 3-year term. Has been reviewed by the attorney, and there's no concerns with the agreement. It's helping the kids.
And I'm not specific on all the details, but I didn't come up with anything different than the services plans that we had adopted in the past.
Correct.
I do know there's some budget constraints in there and how to spend money. Some of those adjust and tweak over the years, but the principles of the agreement, I think, are the same as our Department of Social Services have worked with in the past.
You get the Colorado Office of Children, Youth, and Families. It just simplifies it in the agreement.
Any questions or concerns, gentlemen?
Sir.
No, sir.
All right, what would be your choice on this services plan?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the core services plan with Colorado Office of Children, Youth, and Families written and presented.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Assuming no other discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Stout,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Okay, second is consider authorizing the Director of Human Services to sign a memorandum of agreement for strengthening family services. So this is just authorizing our Director of Human Services to sign this. And this agreement has a scope of services with community partnerships. So CP will provide strengthening family services to qualifying families referred to by CP by collaborative members of the BACT Collaborative Management Program. Services include but are not limited to high fidelity wraparound, parents as teachers, nurturing families, parenting workshops, family support services, foundations and financial health, circle of parents, kinship connection, circle of parents, fatherhood connection, crossroads co-parenting seminar, and emergency assistance for basic needs. $100,000 of funding, which will be paid over 12 months. So it's roughly $8,333.33 will be paid monthly to community partnerships. So this is one of those when you have a family that needs help and you just kind of bring in a team to help them with anything that they're struggling with, be it providing healthy food or parenting or just services. So it's a good that whole wraparound effect of just getting in there and getting ahead of problems to help that family.
And in the past, I think this has been considered House Bill 1451 money that we see on our financials. And just as a point of transparency, I do sit on the board of community partnership. So to avoid any conflict, I just need to make sure that the public is aware that I have no public benefit from execution of this MOA. And Ms. Moffey, our Director of Social Services, will be the one signing the contract. Any questions?
Sure. No, sir.
All right, what would be choice on this MOA?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move to authorize the Director of Human Services to sign the memorandum of agreement for strengthening family services with Community Partnership Family Resource Center.
Second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. Assuming no other discussion, roll call please.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
And you comfortable just doing 3 and 4 together?
Sure.
Right, before you is consideration of approval of professional services agreement with Craig Alexander and Mark Rucker. It's been a while now, but Craig had retired as a director of IT, and we recently had Mark Rucker retire. He was the head of our GIS for coordinating those services. When we recruited for those positions, both of those employees have decades of institutional knowledge that we're hoping to train into our new employees. This is an agreement to hire them as consultants. Each of those, to hire them as a contractor. Each of those roles would not exceed $5,000. It's $40 each per hour for them to come in and consult with their IT, pass that knowledge on. And so that's roughly about 125 hours each. If we got to the maximum amount between now and the end of the year, so with this, to hire them as contractors, so. It's one of those things that it's great to get that knowledge back into the IT.
And as mentioned, there's just an amazing amount of knowledge when it comes to some of the GIS services, and their institutional knowledge will be very beneficial to the people they assist and give some background on and assistance in their training, so.
Just hired a new GS coordinator, it's been about a week now, so. They're onboarding. This is a great opportunity to get that knowledge over to them.
Any questions or concerns, gentlemen?
No questions.
All right, and we have 2 PSAs that we would need to mention in a motion.
Sir, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the professional services agreements with Craig Alexander and Mark Rucker as presented and briefed with all fitting modifications as requested by the contractor, approved by the county attorney.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Assuming no other discussion, roll call please.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Williams?
It's a trick question.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Any additional items?
No additional administrative matters that have been received after the agenda deadlines.
All right, if there's nothing else to be brought in front of today's board. I have 10:25. We shall adjourn the Teller County Board of County Commissioners for today. Thank you.